Hello. Just checking. Can you hear me? Shazeb says begin, so I'm assuming people are joining now as well. I can see a few on Twitter, a few on YouTube. Well, there we go. Everybody's here. Do remember, if you're joining through YouTube, drop a like, as it always helps out the channel. If you're joining through Twitter, do drop me a follow. We're approaching 10k. We're like 100 followers off now on Twitter, and it was my goal to hit 10k by the end of the year. So massive. Let's go, Ivan. First message again. Half hour before the stream started. Excited for the stream, as always, my guy. Do we even need Felix? How would he get into the team over Neto and Kunku Palmer? We're going to speak about that. We're going to speak about those guys, as you can probably see down here. A few topics of discussion for the stream. Rajesh, hi Connor. Appreciate you making sense out of all the chaos around Chelsea. Yeah, there's a lot of it, isn't there? Started enjoying football more thanks to your nuanced perspectives. I really appreciate that, my guy. I think it's important to see both sides of everything. Like, obviously, as a fan, it's different to as an analyst. And then I think that the good thing about analysing Chelsea for me is I can kind of see it from both perspectives to an extent. So it's probably quite good for trying to give at least a point. Felix is the perfect example. We're going to go into him today, but he is literally the perfect example when I say analyst versus fan. Both parts of me coming out, and we will speak about why. What's up, Zach Vargas? What's up, Connor? Too much to talk about there is, like, literally, like I say, there's 4 players just down there, and that's just, like, crazy, isn't it? And it was all within 24 hours. Like, I was literally rewatching the game last night, so I watched it for the second time just before the news dropped in the evening about, who was it? About Felix and the whole Almirodian thing. That's so much to do. I was like making images for the just like literally going through the game, the build up patterns, the diamond that we used, etc. And then everything like that drops, and it was just like, wow. Bunny Mike's been waiting for this. Hello, David. Hello, Ivan. Hello, Shazeb. Yes, we can hear you. Interesting points to discuss. Yes, there is, Ivan. Osimhen's a must now. I agree. You can hear. We can hear. Yes. Connor, Felix, or Mudryk left wing. We'll get into it. Unes, hello. Is it Unes or Une? Let me know. No, Samu. I like Samu, but if it means Osimhen, I'm happy. Tony, I'll discuss why I've got him in here. It's just because I saw like some people speculating it, so I thought it's worth discussing. Interested if Felix can help on the left wing. Yeah, again, we're going to discuss Felix. I'll speak about that in more detail. Osimhen update, please. I have no Osimhen updates. I hope we get one. But in my opinion, now that Almirodian's off the table, we need him. Let's first analyse the Inter-game. Right, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because as soon as this game finishes, I'm going to continue making my thread whilst I watch... what game is it? Luton Burnley. So I'm going to be watching that in the background, completing my thread. And then tomorrow I've got a video out, so we're not going to analyse into today because I want everybody to watch the video tomorrow because I'm putting in effort into that. So yeah, if you want to see the analysis for the Inter game, video and thread, both tomorrow. We need to cut down the squads. I might do that towards the end of this stream because I've been seeing a few people making their like 23, 24-man squads. Hello, Joe. I'm good. How are you? It's very hot in the UK today. I'm not sure how many of you guys in the stream are UK based, but I'm pretty sure today's the hottest day of the year for us. Very hot. So I have got the fan on again in the background, as I've pretty much been mentioning for probably the last 2-3 weeks now. But if it is too loud, just let me know. I mean, even if it is too loud, I'm probably not going to turn it off anyway. I won't lie. It's too hot. Hello, Connor. Mohaz. Already 45 people. Let's go, Zach. Honestly. Let me have a quick refresh of the actual... That's what I didn't do. I knew I didn't do something. Didn't get the stream up on a different tab so that I could see how we're doing for that. But yeah, so I could check for likes and stuff. But it says on here we got 50 plus in the YouTube and about 200 plus on the Twitter. So if everybody that is watching Twitter could come over to the YouTube, drop a like, and then you can return to watching on Twitter, really helps me out. If you're watching on YouTube, you already know the drill. Drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Bring me Felix, Edward says. Trying to catch up with the chat so we can get into it. Right now we don't need Felix as a profile in the squad, but in case we sign Osimhen, get rid of Sterling. I think, yeah, we'll discuss the depth issues, issues like problem solving that he gives us. Do you think Nkunku is good as that advanced 8? I think he suits the role in possession really well, receiving between the lines. I think it slightly hurts us out of possession, but then it's not. I don't know if it's big enough of a deal for him not to play there, because both of Enzo and KDH have been issues out of possession in that role so far. KDH showed it yesterday. He's either not up to scrap. Clearly it's a fitness thing for him, because he was doing it well last season. We'll speak about that as well, though. We'll speak about Nkunku. It's good to see Maresca's flexibility with distances. I told people this. I was telling people this the whole time, and everybody was like replying to me with, "No, he's stubborn." He's strict in his principles. He's not strict in how he's going to produce it. And I told people that, but I'm glad people have seen it for themselves now, because he's never been as strict as was made out. He's just strict in the way he wants to play, and so is Pep. Pep's strict in the way he wants to play, but he can configure different ways of playing that way within a certain framework, and that's what he does so well, and that's why Pep's one of the best. Not saying Maresca's the same level, obviously, but he has that same ability to see the pitch as a chessboard and to make things work within the same principles of wanting to keep the ball, play aggressive, those sorts of like key functionalities of the team, but in a different way of making it. And we've seen it with the wing back overlapping with Gusto and Palmer. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, because I will have that in tomorrow's video. So do make sure you come back to the channel tomorrow to check that out. Because yeah, there'll be a lot of stuff in that. Felix is great, but he's very similar to Jackson. Samuel gave us a plan B, and this is why we need Osimhen. I agree. When do you think we get the here we go? I think something has to drop tonight, though, right? Has to drop tonight. Luton Burnley prediction. I'm going to go 2-1 Burnley. Oh no, I don't know actually. Yeah, 2-1 Burnley. The Luton defence looks a bit shaky. The back three that I saw predicted. Felix made watching Chelsea enjoyable, and again, that's why as a fan, I love the idea of it. I'm going to just try quickly get through these, because there's a lot here. So anything to do with like Felix and like things, if you can just retype when we get to it, when we're talking, so that I can. I saw Palace are interested in Carney. We're over complicating every single move this window. Didn't we just need 4 players and now somehow got 20? We're always going to sign a lot of players. It's sort of like youngsters. It's almost worth not counting them. I know they do, and I know like media outlets will count them on like graphs and stuff. But it's almost worth in the back of your mind not seeing if they're not senior signings, like for example, Amari Kellerman, who's not going to play. Just it's almost worth putting it to the back of your mind and just seeing it as like part of the strategy, and like let them do what they want with that one. And like those sorts of moves. Not fit. Who are we talking about there? Unai. How do we fit? How do we fit in Nkunku? Oh, yeah, we're going to that. And 2 true wingers. Pretty much impossible with all of them. Oh no, sorry, you didn't put Felix. So with 2 true wingers. The only way really to do that would be inverting Caicedo, because you'd need to play, if you like with true wide wingers, that means Palmer and Nkunku have to be the 8s, unless the other way of doing it is Nkunku up front, Palmer in the one of the 8s, Caicedo and Enzo, like Enzo in one of the 8s, Caicedo in the 6, vice versa. If we get Felix, how would you get Nkunku in the team? Yeah, we'll speak about that. Felix works as an 8, not a winger. I don't like him enough out of possession as an 8. I really don't. KDH, yeah, not fit. Yeah, I agree. He looked at yesterday. He rarely had to adapt. Leicester, say people. Yeah, 100%. And I did say that as well. Ninja, I did. Which could be cool, but big problems in transition there. Oh, you're talking about flying wing backs on both sides, yeah? Amron back to MLS. Oh, is he? What, has Amron gone? I don't want Noni to go, man. I really don't want Noni to go. Really don't want Noni to go. Can't wait for your vid tomorrow. Yes, make sure everybody's here for that, because, like I say, we'll take you through the game. 72 people on the YouTube, by the way. 318 on the Twitter. If you're watching on Twitter, please just come over to the YouTube. I don't make money from Twitter, unfortunately. I can, if I continue in this direction, we can begin to form a community over here, and I can bring more streams on the daily. I can bring more videos on the daily. The better we do on the YouTube and the Twitter, I want to get to 10k, but the better we do on the YouTube, the more I can bring to you. So it's really important you come over and support, like all of these lovely guys in the chat are doing right now. Felix False 9, yeah, I feel like you could see that too. So Charlotte FC in London to bring Almiron back. Wasn't that wasn't to do with that though, was it? Was it that who was it? Someone else from Charlotte FC, I'm sure. Or they've signed somebody, because I remember thinking that they've signed somebody from Charlotte FC that shouldn't have moved there, because he could have got a better move. I can't think who it is now. Stengs, that's it. Stengs, like I can believe he'd gone there. Like he's far better than that. Had a great season. Like the video exactly, Andy. Thank you, my guy. All the support does really help. Hello, Ajogo, and hello. Somebody else said something. Sportcat. I think the board looked at that Inter game and decided we needed a top striker, not. But Samu gives us something different. Tim Ream just signed there. Fab just tweeted it. What for Charlotte? Interesting. Ukachukwu was pretty lively and effective. Yes, they finally come to their senses. Oh, about Samu. Right. I'm going to speak about the transfers now. I'm going to try and get off the game too much about yesterday. Like I said, I will have a video out tomorrow, and then maybe if I have time tomorrow, maybe I'll stream as well. So maybe I'll do the video in the day and then do a stream in the evening if people want to discuss it in a more interactive way. But yeah, you mean a more ready now striker. Let's discuss Felix, and then we'll get into the rest, right? I mean, Neto's only here. Like, Neto is done. Like, he's in the door. So, I mean, I could just turn him blue, but the reason that I haven't is because he's got the same. Let's put him as 19. Saw somebody saying yesterday he's balled up for Portugal. And let's just put him there. Do you think he might be on the bench, but very unlikely he gets good minutes? Felix. So quickly, just to get a gauge, type 1 in the chat if you'd like Felix, and type 2 in the chat if you don't want Felix. Literally 1 if you do, 2 if you don't. Just type it in the chat just so I can get a gauge of how many people are on board, how many people aren't on board. By the way, I got a Fanta lemon today because I feel like that's always something. Feels summery. Like when it's this hot, I feel like something a bit different. Oh, bit of a mix. 2 2 1 1 2 2 1 1 1 1 2. Soft 2. 1 as long as he's not super expensive. Yeah, I can hear that. So yeah, there's quite a few. I'd say it's probably leaning more towards leaning slightly more towards yes for Felix, which isn't that surprising because, like I say, as I said earlier, I think it's very fan/analyst for me in 2 different what it's about. So it's 1 for if you do want Felix, 2 if you don't. How would you fit him in? We're going to speak about it. Felix is a decent player, you're right, but the fit is a worthy and yeah, bias, and I agree. This is my thing, right? So the first obvious option, and a lot of people would say this, is playing him as one of the 8s, right? Now, my issue with this, instantly, out of possession, you of course sort of play that 4-1-4-1. 1 winger pushes a bit higher, 1 drops a bit deeper, right? But these players, they're there, and again, this happened with KDH yesterday. This happened against Real Madrid, against Rudiger. If a player is on the ball in and around here, and that ball is live, to then, because obviously, like, this is aggressive, right? So that's going to be higher. If he's not pressuring that ball, that's how we get hurt over the top. Yes, it's like at that point, if they know somebody who's not putting pressure on the ball and that ball is now live, that means that they should be dropping off. But the problem with Felix, and my main issue with him playing as an 8, is I don't think he's going to bring that intensity, and neither have many of the 8s. And I agree, I don't think there's much chance he'd play at the 8 because of that. He has to get pressure on that ball, and I don't think he'll do it enough because Nkunku hasn't done it enough, and I think Nkunku's got more of an engine, and he's actually more willing than Felix than that. So my main thing there is out of possession. I think the 8 suits him absolutely the least, right? So for me, that's why I wouldn't play him as an 8. In possession, brilliant. Gets to play in the half space, gets to pick up the ball in the half turn, gets to link up play close with the striker. When Enzo drops in deep, like we saw at times, sort of forming that 4-2 at times, but then even forming that sort of 3-3, like this or whatever, or however it was with Enzo in here, him there. And we sort of see like that 3-3-4. Again, Felix close to the striker, can combine, can make runs in behind. Brilliant in possession. But out of possession, not for me. So that's the explanation of why I don't want him there. That's off the table. Now let's talk left wing. So just for example, again, putting Nkunku back in here. Enzo, Nkunku, whoever. Again, don't worry too much about the personnel apart from like the ones that I'm like purely mentioning for the sake of like actually mentioning. Right. Now, this is probably my favourite of the three. Now that I've thought about it a bit more, because I did think striker's probably the best for him. And I'm still torn because it probably is, but then we still don't gain anything. And I wouldn't want it I wouldn't want him to be our starting striker. So like he would, if anything, he'd be like the sub striker for me. Off the left is the most interesting because he has played off the left. He can cut inside on his right foot, and he's a right-footed left winger, which is something we've been briefed with that we need. Right, out of possession, you still have the eights to press. Again, I'm not keen on this configuration, but I've just put them in there for the sake of it. That could literally be Casado, and then it's a little bit better. KDH as well. 9 second option for him. Yeah, agreed. And I agree. This is why don't take too much into account because if we're gonna have all these attackers in, Casado and different configurations of the midfield will be needed. Enzo isn't really droppable in my opinion though. Obviously, he is like game to game rotational, but I think he's quite important in this team. And I think Maresca has a big plan for him as well. But yeah, in this sense, Madueke being the more defensive winger, Cucurella being aggressive on this side, and again, you sort of form that three because if that was Reese, for example, you sort of form that five that I spoke about in some of my other videos. Lavia a bit deeper, these two to apply pressure with the striker. And then Felix's job here is essentially to just stop the wide progression in this channel. Hopefully, that would limit his out of possession work. He still has to get high up though at times, which could hurt us because if he's not ready and he's sort of just pottering around here, Gooey blocks off this side of the pitch, and we've not applied enough pressure, especially if it's Enzo here, because again he's not exactly got the legs to make up for Felix. They're not gonna if it's Casado, maybe he could make up for him a bit, but having pressure in that area of the pitch, if it's not done and Gooey's locked it off, but or Guiu locked it off, Felix isn't close enough, and they can pop us through, and then there's space to attack that back five. So I do think it limits him the most, his out of possession needs, because I think you can have that right winger as the more defensive, whether that's Madueke or Neto, right? Because I think that would be guaranteed. And again, Neto works hard, so you get that from him. And then again, in possession, he would have to hug the touchline because likelihood is that would have to be Palmer. And this is where you're not going to get them all in the team, right? Because it would have to be Nkunku, Palmer. It would have to look something like this. So then you'd invert one of the fullbacks. You'd go something like this. You'd have the half space players, and then you'd have the wide men. So again, the best compliant for Felix out wide in possession, even out of possession, is probably Dewsbury Hall. Because Felix can cut in on his right, Dewsbury Hall can overlap on his left, offer a left-sided option in that sense. He can also, he just knows to replace that better than any at the minute, and he's going to do the legwork. Felix as well, he is good enough 1v1. He will enjoy that 1v1 battle, especially if you're giving him 6 1v1s a game out there, and he has that license to, once we create that 1v1 for you, go, beat your man, make something happen. I think he'd thrive from that sort of responsibility of he is there to be a game changer, because that is what these wide men are. You're giving them multiple 1v1s and you want them to change the game, and that is his best asset. He is a game changing technician. Don't get me wrong, he's not in my opinion, he's not a touchline winger 1v1 type, but yeah, somebody else has rightfully said Chilwell's job at the club. I still don't think that's a push, because I still think Chilwell's gone. But you're right in the sense that obviously you could have a left wing, you'd have a left wing back overlapping. You could have that being, say, Enzo. So you make the pivot there, becomes a back three like this. This wing back's now providing width. Felix is coming into here. One thing you have to say, that triangle would be fun. Be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun, but I don't want it to be Chilwell, so that's my issue. Casado will play. This is what I mean. Don't take too much account of the midfield, because I could literally just put Casado in for Lavia, and then people will say Lavia should play because he's been brilliant in pre-season. That's the only reason he's there. So try not to think too much about the midfield. Casado will play. Casado is one of our best players last season. That triangle would be fun. That's something I love the idea of. Again, because of my personal bias towards Felix as a player. But I don't think we'll see that too much with Chilwell. I think I don't think we see it at all. I think he leaves before that happens. Let me just refigure whatever we had, sort of like that, right? So that's my pros for him off the left. Now, before we speak about him as a striker, yeah, no, I agree. I think he'll be sold. Let me just quickly read through the few notes that I wrote on Twitter today about him, so that you can sort of understand where I'm at regarding Felix thought-wise, right? So my first point is the personal affection I have for him as a player. As a lot of you have said, I just think he's fun. He's technically quality. He's that sort of eye-catching player, gets you off your feet. And I've always believed in him because of that, that off-ball quality. I've always thought that if he goes somewhere and becomes the man, I think he can. If he'd gone to Villa, I'd have been rooting for him. Obviously not against Chelsea, and obviously not for Villa to finish high up. But I'd have wanted him to do well because I just like him as a footballer, and I always have. And I think he would have thrived in that sort of environment too, to be like I say, the man, the game changer. Out possession implications, the pressing intensity, like we spoke about, he'd have to work harder in a man-to-man pressing scheme. You can't really have bystanders, and if anything, we've already the biggest thing with out possession structure and things like that is with a man-to-man press is if one person isn't pulling their weight, then the rest of the team has to then start sort of occupying other spaces and doing two people's job, three people's job. We already kind of have somebody that we're pulling. He's not completely redundant, but Enzo, he is the guy in this team where he has fewer out of possession qualities than in possession qualities, but he's got enough in possession qualities that we need him in the team, and he makes a lot of sense for the way we want to play, and he can still do enough off the ball that we can cover him. So we're already sort of not dragging, but we're already sort of making that adjustment because of him. If you have them both in the team together and you're not, like I say, not dragging two people along, but you're carrying half their load, it has a knock-on effect. So that's an issue for me. It does feel like somebody said this earlier too. By the way, I can't see the chat right now, so when I come back, I'll try and go through all the chats. When I come back to that screen, it does feel like with Felix that the board would see it as a valuable potential player to revitalize and reprise his value. So what I mean by that is they see him as this was an £100 million player when he was young, when he signed, and he so much potential. So many players wanted him. He's played for Barca, he's played for Chelsea. There's been interest in him from all over. Obviously on loans from Barca and Chelsea, but you get the point. If you can get him for 30 million, 35, 40 million, they probably see that as, right, we're getting a 60 million discount. Obviously, discount, big quotation marks, because you're not worth 100 million. But they might see that as we can reprise that value, and even if he isn't at the absolute top standard, we could probably get him back to a level that is worth more than that value. So that's sort of where I'm at on that. I think that they might see that as an opportunistic signing. Swiss Army knife player, again, same as Nkunku, can play on the left, can play centre forward, plays in that left half space, depending how we get him in there, whether it's from the left or as a left eight, but I don't like that idea. But again, the out of possession things from if he's in the eights. But a Swiss Army knife player is something to note. And if somebody like Nkunku got injured, someone like Felix who can dot around positions, it also just depends on what's being sold to him in the boardroom. If he's being told that he has to fight for that spot, he's not going to start from the get-go. He has to earn it by working hard, and because Maresca's not going to play him if he's too much of a liability out of possession. So if he's sort of coming with that desire to sort of make one of those spots his, I kind of like the idea of him fighting for that spot. Like I say, there's parts of it that I don't like, but the out of possession thing becomes redundant if he comes in with such hunger, because he did slightly improve his out of possession last season, not to a good enough level, but I saw quite a few times where he sort of got stuck in, especially from that left wing spot. So there's chance. As I said earlier, right-footed attacker, can cut inside from the left. He's a right-footed left winger, and he had shooting volume, sort of what we was briefed that we wanted. And then I just sort of went on to say, the analyst in me says no. If I'm trying to nitpick, what do we need more? I think a box threat, like an Osimhen or a Morodium. We have enough in those positions. And again, you're just he's another big personality player where if he's not playing, is he going to cause a fuss? I don't think he would, because he does really seem to like the club. Like he's saying about like taking a pay cut to get in, it does seem weird. Like not weird, like it seems like he really loves the club. But as I said, my heart says yes, because I've loved him as a footballer since way before Chelsea, since pretty much Benfica days. Then when he came like to the club on loan, I was just over the moon, just because again I got to see him play for Chelsea, a club that my club, and a player that I already loved and adored already. And then like I said, I just have emotional ties to him as a player. So it's really tough. Like analyst says no, heart says yes. Anyway, a lot of that waffle there, or like going on. I need to go back through the chat because I've missed quite a bit, and we've got 500 odd people in there now. We've got 80 people on YouTube and 470 odd in Twitter. So if you're watching on Twitter, as I say, please come over to YouTube, drop the like. Even if you then go back to watching on Twitter, it does really help me out. And again on YouTube, if you haven't already, please do smash the like button if you haven't, because it does help me out. Right, let's catch up with the chat. Why Casado not seen as an 8? Short passing is too risky for a 6. I still think he'd be fine as a 6. Like he'd be brilliant as a 6 long term. I think he's looked a little bit rusty. In the 8 though, he'll be brilliant. I just think his pressing intensity in that 8 would really help us. I'm gonna go through the chat and just try to get to the ones that are like quite specific to the like Felix topic right now, just because that's what we're sort of talking about, and then we'll go back through things as we move on to other people. Jackson Omarodian or Jackson Osimhen was giving me Drogba and Elka dreams in transition. That would have to be Jackson off the left, I'm assuming, is what you'd say. Two good presses there. So yeah, like Jackson and Osimhen. True. He's coachable. I think he's a perfect Maresca winger. Again, if he works harder, I think, and I could see him finding light out on that left wing. But like I say, he's not your typical touchline winger, so it would just have to be, you'd have to get proper. Mike's mashed. Do you mean my mic I'm talking through? Like, is everybody else? Is that okay for everybody else or what? Also, what does this mean for Carney? Not sure. Again, I'm going to try to get to the Felix bits first. Has to change his game, and his stocks are low. Yeah, and exactly, he comes with a chip on his shoulder. Saw a few people saying that last night too. Selling all the wingers who've done pre-season. Yeah, Noni has to stay in my opinion. Like I say, Neto needs a bit of time to fit in. Neto's also injury prone. It is risky. I'd only sell Sterling if of the three really. Like I'd stick with the others for now. But you can argue all of them. But Palmer aren't good enough. I still think Noni is. I wouldn't sell him at all. Samuel Lino instead of Felix, it makes more sense. Yeah, but again, it's not really. I haven't seen any of it said, so there's not even much point going over it. But Samuel Lino's good, and it would make more sense. And yeah, you have Zach. To be fair, I remember you saying about Lino. Yeah, you're right. Quote, he loved Chelsea because the fans gave him a chant after one game. Yeah, I remember that. Liked and sub my guy Arthur. Thank you very much for the support. Anybody that hasn't done that, please do. Is Liao better left wing or Felix? Definitely Liao. Like Liao is one, he's a touchline winger. Two, he's far better in transition. He's still got the 1v1 threat, if not more. Like, well, he does have more. The only thing he maybe has slightly less of is that sort of like shot volume and like slightly less sort of precision with his touches. But no, Liao easily. Do you still think we'll get a striker? I think we have to. I think we have to get Osimhen now. Really do. Opportunistic to flip a profit. Yeah, this is that. I genuinely do think that's quite a big thing. I do think that they see it as a opportunity to get a player that was worth 100 million for under 40 as an in behind threat winger. No, I don't think so. I think Neto can do both really well. I think that's part of his allure is that he works so hard going backwards, and he'll run in behind, and he'll get the ball to feet and carry it forwards himself to make things happen. Like he's a bit of an all action two-way touchline winger, so he is pretty perfect in that sense. Which other athletic player would you prefer to be signed? I was looking at this the other day. It would be Felix. Like in order, it would have been Omarodian. Again, if we get Felix and Osimhen, fine. If we don't get Osimhen, I'll be annoyed about the Omarodian. I will, because I think the profile was perfect. The profile is exactly what we needed. like I say, I'm fine if Osimhen comes in because of it, then I'm happy. But if you miss out on both, I think that's a big issue. Then it would have been like you say, Lino probably just makes most sense, and then Felix is probably the only other one behind Omorodion and Lino that makes any sense for the squad. Well, not any sense because, like I said, there is reasons why Felix doesn't, but there's not many else that I'd go for, really. I'd honestly just rather find another option for Gallagher and walk away from all this. Yeah, I get you. Seems tough to do because Spurs have already made moves. Aston Villa, obviously, he either didn't want to go there or Villa gave up, like one of the two. I think it was he didn't want to go to Villa, but like we don't know how close the briefs are to being the truth. We got lost game coming next season. Rotation will be key. Lots of games coming. Yeah, you're right. And this is another thing. So like, let's now move on to let's talk about Osimhen, right? Let's say, and let's just put it like this. Felix can easily, like I said, if he comes in and he's told, and this is why it's important what he's coming in thinking he is. Then it's fine if he's on from the bench because literally, look, right. Let's say it's how we saw it the other day. Palmer plays as 1A, Enzo plays the other, and Kunku plays as 1A, Enzo plays the other, for example. Palmer plays off the right, and then we signed an Osimhen. So like, let's say this. Again, this could be Casado, this could be Brees. Like, don't worry too much behind it. Worry more about what you're seeing up here. Then Gusto becomes the overlapper. Enzo drops deeper. Kunku goes in. Palmer goes in from the wing. And you end up with this front five. You got a left-footed crosser over here, right-footed crosser over here, a left-footed in-swinger here, a right-footed in-swinger here. The wrong way around. Don't worry about that. So we've got that for a start in attack, and you got a box threat. Then, looking from the bench, my go-tos from this, like, so in this scenario, let's say Sterling is sold. Let's say Carney is either sold or loaned, so we're just going to remove him from the equation. Chilwell, gone. So you're sort of looking at a squad like this. Gu's probably loaned out as well, but I'll leave him there for now. I mean, actually, no, I won't, because if Osimhen comes in... Actually, no. I'll leave him there for now, but I do think he'd go on loan. But let's say this is the squad, right? From the bench, you are looking at touchline wingers, Madueke, Mudryk. Felix, who can play either of those two roles, or as a winger, or as a 9, as a backup if you need somebody who can link play. Of course, you've got Jackson too. That's not a bad position to be in if he's willing to be that guy. But it's just how willing he is. And we'll find that out quite quickly. But Felix from the bench against deep blocks, especially, to give you that little bit more thrust in tight areas and just that ability to receive in the half spaces. Again, like if these guys are tiring and they've played 60, 70 minutes and you need to freshen up in there, you got an extremely similar profile. There is positives. It's just price dependent, attitude dependent, out of possession dependent, profiling dependent. Everything matters. Other news, but Fab said Newcastle were confident on Gurhey. Extra 15 mil. Oh no, for us, I was going to say, because it was 60, wasn't it? I thought you were meaning that they were going to have to pay 75. Yes, something like 10 to 15 for us, isn't it? So that's another good sign, hopefully, for this man. Fingers crossed. Is it really necessary to sign Felix? We're kind of just overwhelmed. Yeah, like I say, it's not necessary. You're right, it's not. But I'm trying to make points for both cases. I do keep trying to make it clear there is a lot of bad things about this, but I'm also just trying to sort of give some people the positives that come with him. And again, I'd be happy either way, because if it doesn't happen, I'd be happy in the sense of, well, not happy, but I'd be like fine with it because he doesn't make loads of sense for the squad anyway. It doesn't make a big difference. But if he does join, I'll be happy just purely as a fan. The analysis part, we'll see. Are you saying yes if Felix? Yeah, 35 million and Sterling's out immediately. Absolutely, 35 million. I just think that's cheap for Felix. I think there's still a player in there. I think like I say, if he's willing to play off the bench and start in some games and not be the main man, but be the main man in the second unit, because that's another way to look at him, right? And I sort of thought about this earlier, and I keep using basketball analogies because I think there's just so many fun things to like sort of concepts to take from basketball. The whole concept, I'm not sure how people are with like a sixth man in basketball, just being like the main man off the bench and being like the one who leads that sort of the pack in the second unit is how they'd sort of say it, right? So like the second unit, the subs come in, the sixth man, NBA, yeah, exactly. Imagine Felix in that role. Imagine the second unit, cup games, conference league, things like that. Great analogy. Thank you, Fred. Imagine Nkunku isn't playing in those games because you're trying to like load manage him or Palmer, and then Felix is that guy. How good, if you just put it to just that, how good is that? That's brilliant. Really good. The problem then is we was already like the other problem again to then mention, yeah, Felix six man of the year candidate. We need to start trending that. If we just start calling Felix six man of the year. Because I think I'm going on Goldberg's stream tonight, Alex Goldberg, if any of you guys watch him on his podcast. So not podcast, what do you call it? Playback. So if any of you are there, we'll try and bring the sixth man of the year Felix shouts and see how he reacts to that. The issue is like we don't even know how we're going to get both of these guys in the team unless, like we say, it's Palmer moving in off the right. So let's see how that goes too. Yeah, just on the it'll just be I've just been speaking to him on DM, so we'll just be talking on the playback. But yeah, probably after the championship game. He's a Suns fan. I'm a Pels fan, to be fair. And Nkunku and Felix could be the perfect 90-min player. So you mean like 60-30? Yeah. Again, like that's just so good. Does Felix have the goldfish memory? This is tough because, like, and again, I've sort of said about this a few times when talking about wingers. I wouldn't say it's quite as it is to an extent because he's willing to just try things and he's so confident in his ability. The only thing I'd say is that each one sort of you can see that each thing sort of plays on his mind a tiny bit, but it's not like that will then stop him from the next action. So I wouldn't say it's quite goldfish to the point where it's like forgotten, go again, forgotten, go again. But it is goldfish like in the sense of he will continuously trust his actions, regardless. Has something just happened? Because my phone has just started getting WhatsApps. Has something happened? Fab, anyone? Or maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's nothing. Not what I can see. I trust you, Zach. I think you'd see it. I think you well tapped in on Twitter to know where and when to see things. Do we need another centre back? If what? Just Gertie stuff? Nope. Interesting. If we can have extra firepower to bring off the bench, that's a huge advantage. Yeah, exactly. And the squad depth, you know that they've wanted this. Would you reconsider moving for John Duran? Absolutely. I think I don't think his ceiling's as high as Samu just because the pure like physical freak that Samu is. But I think I've been saying all summer, I think Duran is an opportunity for anybody to go and grab because I think he is waiting to become a 15 plus goal striker. Like he's got a rocket his ball striking is unbelievable. He's got the physicality, he's got the like sort of movement ideas already. I do think Duran would be, if we can't get Osimhen, I would like to revisit Duran, but the attitude thing with the whole Hammers thing that came out kind of is another thing that's in the back of my mind now because that like we sort of heard about his attitude, but I'd never like seen any real sort of proof of it until that. If Felix comes in, I want to see him play with Nkunku. I mean, that would be nice, wouldn't it? But we just, like I say, I think we just need, when I keep saying about imagine this sort of lineup, left-footed crosses, right-footed crosses, those deep balls from Enzo Olavia, in-swingers from Nkunku and Palmer. I think it just gives us that late game dominance. And I think having both Jackson and Osimhen, again, all you have to do is watch my other videos to know it. Especially all the striker like related ones. These guys, like I just think they complement each other so well. Like you just get pretty much everything from having both those profiles. Someone said, "What about Tony?" Right. So the reason I've put Tony in here to speak about is essentially I saw things earlier, the like sort of tweets like circulating about if we don't get Osimhen, Chelsea thinks some things could pop up in the window, and then some people were sort of suggesting that that means Tony is an option, right? And I think that's not the worst shout in the world of them if they was to wait till deeper in the window and think, can we get Tony? My only big issue with that is I don't think he is more of a box threat, but he's not like a ridiculous sort of like monster like an Omorodian or a Osimhen. But he does bring the experience we need, like hold finisher and like penalties, every like things like that. And like you say, Matt Law's article thinks we're still tracking Tony. I think again, price dependent. I think it's a savvy move, but I would go elsewhere first. I would go Osimhen, and I probably would go Duran, which a lot of people will like roll their eyes at because everybody will be like, "We want Tony. He's more experienced and he's already done it in the Prem." And like same as when I was saying, I would prefer Duran to Solanke, and I rate Solanke very highly. But it's all money dependent, wage dependent, structure dependent. Like Duran and Jackson, I think Jackson would still be able to start. Tony and Jackson, Tony pretty much becomes a starter, and I don't think he's so much better. Yeah, and this is what I mean. Tony's Premier League proven. I get that completely. But I'd still, of these two, I'd still want Jackson to be the starter. Honestly, I don't think he's so much of an upgrade like an Osimhen. I'd kind of want to roll with Jackson in that sense and have Tony as like the um, rotation backup, but that wouldn't happen. Whereas with Duran, I think it would. I think you'd get a bit of Jackson, a bit of Duran. But that's why I wanted to put Tony in there because he fits all the bills, like we've said. He's very good at connecting play. That's true. He's a very good finisher. Like he is a very good finisher. That's why again I take it 100%. Any other striker that you would consider if Osimhen doesn't happen? Gyökeres, I would have said. I said Gyökeres before he left Coventry, but I think the opportunity for Gyökeres is gone now. Again, I think Jackson isn't too far off of the profile of Gyökeres. Um, Obviously, he's like I say, he's not as composed. He's not as good a finisher yet. He's got slightly needs to bulk up his upper body, but the profile wise, I don't think it's dissimilar enough to make a move. I'd prefer to go elsewhere than Gyökeres now. As much as I love him, I think Gyökeres is one of the better strikers in the world, which is saying something of how much I rate Jackson for that type of profile. So I'd let him continue in that progression. If Tony's gone, who would take? But still Palmer, I think. But it would be imagine the arguments for that. Be like last season with Noni, Jackson, and Palmer. Hopefully, Maresca would just delegate Palmer and then done. But any other striker from that, like I could say, Duran would probably was like my shout before we even got into it. Trying to think if there's any more that I had on my list. I might have to come back to that and tweet it later. If I can sort of think about like whenever we get back to the striker stuff. I've got a few on my list, but I can't think of any off the top of my head that I'd go for, at least in my top 4 or 5 names that we haven't already mentioned. 70 goals. I'd honestly be happy with a repeat of last season from Jackson. Yeah, and exactly. I want to see more. I just want to see more of him. I want him to get the minutes. And even if Osimhen comes in, like even if if Omorodian had come in, I said I rate Omorodian highly, a lot more than people seem to online. I still would want Jackson to be the striker, the starting striker. I personally wouldn't gamble on Vitor Roque. Again, good player, but I just don't think it's not the profile that I want to add with our strike force. It's not like an extra thing that we need, but I do think he's good. I think I hope he doesn't move off to like Saudi or something. I hope he does move somewhere in Europe. Is Isaac a possibility? Probably not, but I guess the only thing that maybe gives you hope there is keep an eye on Madueke, because I guess that gives you an option. That gives you leverage. But again, they're not gonna get rid of Isaac. Considering the type of chances Jackson missed last year, could easily hit 20 exactly. Do you think there's any possibility of us going back to Samu? Because Fab has been pretty quiet and you never know clear. Like, possibly, but again, I have no further intel. That's just complete. I don't really rate Giancarlo Ramos really that highly. So no. And he's also not the profile that I'd really go for. So no. Isaac was my dream at the start of the summer. Isaac's unbelievable. Isaac is unbelievable. And he can just do everything. Like, again, he's not exactly like he's not such a beast in the box, but he's 6'3", so he brings that anyway. Traditional 4-2-3-1, so he has time to work on the current. No, I think it will go straight from the off, and I do think we're close to getting it pretty spot on. A 1U from Forest. It's not a bad shout for a backup. Not a bad shout for a backup. One that I definitely don't see our board making. But if you were going to go Jackson or a 1U for the season, it does offer you the profile differences that you need. So yeah, it's not a bad shout. I just don't think it would happen. How bad would it really be if we didn't bring in another striker? Not the worst. Not the worst. But saying that, we had Samuel Morodian on the table. If none of this had happened with the Felix, Morodian, and all this, and we'd have gone into the season with Jackson, Giyu, and Nkunku, who can play there, I would have been okay with it. Now that I've seen that we did target a big target man type, and we've like almost fumbled that again, whether that's our fault, their fault, both player, whatever. Now that I've seen that, it almost makes Osimhen a must for me, because if we end up now with neither, after knowingly targeting that profile, which I've been begging for, I would be quite upset. If Felix comes in, how many years contract would he sign? I'd assume 4 or 5. Well, no, I don't know actually. He's 24, so I wouldn't even be surprised if it's 6 or 7 years, just to protect him. Have you seen Giyu? He sure ain't small. Yeah, he's 6'2", but he's a bit more of like he sort of uses his body in a different way. It's a bit more like Diego Costa-esque. Like he's sort of, it's hard to explain. He's more mechanical with it, with how he uses his body, how he sort of like tries to like barge people, and again, like he's a big workhorse, but sometimes slightly over erratic in terms of movement. Like he's not quite got the physicality to let the play come to him and use his body to like shield things. He sort of has to move into things, which can sort of get like those differences in how much ground you're giving up, even if it's by a few like centimeters. It can make differences. So like the gravity of like an Osimhen is different. Giyu would be good with a loan. His talent is brilliant. Yeah, I said that too. Yeah, I'm not too keen on Goncalo Ramos of it, honestly. Line of City, we're going to do a stream on Wednesday to speak about the City game, so I'm going to miss that for today. He's also 18. He will get stronger, yeah, and I like Giyu. It's nothing to do with Giyu. Like I want him to be properly developed, and a loan would do that, in my opinion. Now the cat's out of the bag. If you don't sign an Osimhen style physical box occupier, the microscope on Jackson intensifies. Yeah, I think you're true. I think you're right. We've got 600 odd people, by the way. Now we've got 74 on YouTube and 500 odd on Twitter. Gonna quickly do my usual. Please do drop a like on YouTube. If you're on Twitter, please come over to the YouTube, drop a like, as it does really help me out. And if you aren't following me on Twitter, please do that as well, because like I said, we are approaching 10k, which would be huge. Big milestone that I set for myself at the start of the year. If hypothetically you could choose one athletic player, who would it be? I still think Omarodian is the most potential. So Omarodian, like again, talking like with my analysis hat on, Omarodian, talking with my like fan, like this would just be fun. Like Felix is fun. So will we ever have a best 11? That's what's hard though. Like put it this way, there will be best 11s on paper, but if you asked Pep what his best 11 was, odds are it'd be different to what everybody else says City's best 11 is. So it's tough to really know. So yes and no is the answer to that, honestly. Felix false 9, we didn't discuss that, did we? So let me go into it, because I did. This is something I also spoke about. Again, if you're trying to get all these players on the pitch against low blocks, I still think you're going to miss like that sort of, like say, Osimhen type, and then even against in transition, Jackson offers you more. So I feel like you sort of need one of these two profiles as the striker more, and Felix just sort of gives you in between both, but you're never going to need in between. Like you can sort of have one for one or the other. But it would work to an extent. He can drop in and he can link play. And I spoke about this in before pre-season started, where they form that pentagon. These players are high and wide. Again, this is if it would be an inverted fullback. So, but imagine this is a right winger. So they Noni Madueke. They're high and wide. He can drop in, do that part of play. He can then also run in behind. He has cleverish movement in these sort of half space runs when he's in and around the box to sort of like go between with like inseam. So he can do that. He can, and as the striker, his main he's better at driving with the ball. I agree, and he'd probably come hunting a bit too much. He wouldn't stretch as often, so these guys would really have to make those darting runs in behind to like stretch the pitch. where have you seen that? I did see something about it, Clapton, but is it something new? Because obviously that's just a possibility if Felix wasn't to go through. And yeah, I agree, Jason. Dependent on matchups, dependent on how you're going to sort of field things, I think you're almost looking nowadays at like a best 15, 16. No update yet. Cool. Thank you, Zach. What was I going to say about Felix can be us Isco, just a pure entertainer? And that's just why he's fun, isn't it? Like, it just would be fun to watch. There's one other thing I was going to say about him as a striker. The pressing from him would be important, is the only other thing. It not important. If anything, it kind of negates his his what do you call it? His responsibilities. But often, like, you do have to put pressure on the ball in here, so he would have to be intense when it is up here, and he'd also have to be like well drilled to the point where he knows which side to sort of like lock off, and that locking off part is important. So if he just didn't do it, like he'd probably just get stripped off the pitch, because like Maresca would. That's so important to the system, like in terms of going man to man. Once he locks off one side, he can rotate, he can come infield, he can attack. This guy can jump. Like, you can sort of like block things off and make this your field of attack, and that's how you try and win the ball back. And then if you force it long, you've got sort of your recovery group in here. So that would be an important role of him being the false 9/9. So he'd have to do that. Like that's non-negotiable. He would have to. But yeah, after that, is there any questions purely on Felix, on Osimhen, on anything else that we can go into? Like say, I won't go into the tactics from yesterday or anything, because I want to leave that for tomorrow's video. I'm not worried about the attack, it's more the defence. What, with Felix or with the whole team? I'm going to quickly check how many likes we're on. I'm going to try and load this YouTube up, because we're on 64 likes. We're absolutely smashing it on here. Can we try and get to 100? 100? Sorry, the comments screwed up there. Can we try and get to 100 likes? That'd be brilliant. We're on 64 currently. We've got 63 people watching on YouTube. Don't know how many we got on Twitter. We got about 500 plus on Twitter. So if you could just come over, drop a like, and then leave, that'd be perfect. Anyway, can you do a depth chart? So what a depth chart like with Felix? So again, I did get rid of who did I take off screen earlier? I took Chilwell. I took a few others off screen, didn't I? Right, so you'd have Reece and Gusto, you'd have Badiashile in here, Tossin. Dizassi's an extra man too. Vega, Mudryk, Madueke, Jackson. Let's say Felix was. Let's just put him. Actually, no. Let's leave him out there for a minute. Let's say we got an Osimhen. Don't worry about Tony. Let's say KDH. Let's say Casado. This is why I kept Ugachukwu, because it's like, again, I think that he's sort of. Again, you can do this in whichever way possible. You can have Lavia, you can have Casado in here, you can have Ugachukwu there, you can have Enzo there. You can do it in different ways. But the point is having 6 midfielders, because I think if Lavia, like, just relying on Lavia scares me a tiny bit, to the point where I at least want somebody like Ugachukwu around. This is where, to me, like, Gui, Disasi are both sort of, or Giyu are both sort of what's the word for it? Like, they're both extras for like multiple positions. Like, it gives you an extra striker option, but you could loan him out. But again, it's like focusing on injuries. Disasi again, he could end up being a big part, but we haven't seen enough. And then Felix again, this just gives you that can play here, can play here, can play here. So that maybe then is enough to see Giyu loaned out, because you know that you've got Felix and Nkunku, who aren't even in the depth chart as a striker, but can play as a striker. So maybe that's enough for Giyu to get loaned out. So let's just turn him yellow. Let's say he gets loaned out. And then, like I say, you got Felix off multiple positions. again, Neto can come over here, Felix can play here, Jackson can do that. So the whole point is having sort of movement, but you could say the depth chart for 211s is 22, 23, 24. So then you get rid of Giu to get him off screen. That becomes your 24-man team with the signings of Felix and Osimhen. How are people feeling about that? If that's your 24-man team going into the season, obviously then you've got the youth as well. So Reece spends long amounts of times out. You've got Acheampong in the 21s. You've got Tyreek George as well. You've got Ishe Samuel-Smith on the left. There's options. That squad is a joke, and I agree. That's what really sort of like frustrates me to an extent, because I do genuinely think that is just unbelievably good for depth. And like I say, these players can move. Palmer, I actually think he's better as the 8. But again, if he's coming in off the right to play as like an inside in that right half space, then I don't mind it. But I don't want him as a touchline. But then you've got one option for touchline, one option for inside. Now he can play both. Madrid, it's good, isn't it? It's good. Marcus Leonardo from Benfica. What position? Marcus Leonardo. I might just be having a moment, but don't recognise by name. Defence lets us down, and I did. Oh, striker. Can't say I've seen much of him. Let's be honest. Our defence lets us down, like you say. So a lot of them are form players. I'm happy with that left, like these two. I think they offer different profiles. I think they're going to be good this year. I think Kukurea is like coming into form. Got 2 of the best right backs again if Reece stays fit. So you're talking the 4 centre backs. And again, this is another reason why having Disasi as sort of that third option is good, because if Fofana, like, you're not too reliant on Fofana, you've got an extra man here. I do agree you could make an upgrade in defence, but Colwell, like, he should, if he can stay fit, he'll become probably the main man in that defence. Colwell and Fofana, if they can stay fit and like learn together, I think you saw signs yesterday. Just quickly, that goal was on the 8th, more on the centre backs. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that will be covered in the video. But I think KDH was most at fault for that. Is how I assessed it. So yeah, give Tosin more than 5 games. I think Tosin will play a lot of games as well, and I quite like him. Chalobah and Carney for Gurhey. I think I like Gurhey as a player, but I think in a team that already lacks physicality and height in midfield in certain areas, I think it's too risky to add a player like him when you can add somebody with similar ball carrying and passing qualities, but that adds extra height and physicality to a team that lacks it. So no, but I do like him as a player. So it's a tough one, but I would say probably no, just for that reason alone. I do hope Carney doesn't go though, because that's the thing. Like, Carney's another one not on this depth chart because of the rumours. But I'd love him to stay. I think he's so good. And again, like I said, like there's room in these, like Ugachukwu can sort of like facilitate every position. And then that could genuinely just be Carney. So I do want Carney to stay. I do. Like this, for example. And yeah, that's what worries me. Who are the genuine armband candidates? So we've already seen Enzo wear it, so we know Enzo's probably going to be at least Vice, or at least one of them. I would say Colwell is one of them, but we've now seen Enzo and Colwell on the pitch together, and it go to Enzo. So I would go Reece, then Enzo seems to be the second. Then I would go Colwell, would be in my head, but I might be wrong. Saying 20 mil, yeah, that is far too low. Like earlier in the window, people were losing their minds at 40, including me. I didn't want him sold for 40, but like 20 now, it'd just be, because it was something like 40 million, like hidden release clause, wasn't it? 100k, and I don't see where Kanye would play now. 100k is kind of crazy because he was signed in that window where big wages were handed out and big transfer fees. But his talent's just so good to the point where like I'd facilitate a loan for him, with like Felix coming in, Ugachukwu stays, Carney goes out on loan. I'd be happy with that. but just don't want him sold. Murillo at Forest and sell Badiashile. Again, I just don't think the centre backs are movable at this point. I think it's almost at the point now where we're going to have to play this year with these centre backs, and then maybe next year. Because if we do go out and spend on Osimhen, and we go out and we've spent on Neto, and we do bring in Felix, in attacking areas we're quite set, and in midfield areas we're quite set. So if anything, the defensive area for next year would maybe be where we then go and address. Then you've also got Anselmino, like a youngster that's coming in through the academy, through the system, like the transfer strategy. So that's another option. What if you sell him with a buyback and sell on clause? It's better, but yeah, Carney, I know you're on about. If it is better, but it depends. Depends. Not at 20 million still, though. I just think it's risky. It would be much better, though. You're right. Defense isn't just centre back; it's the entire team. Yeah, I agree, and that's why I've been saying like Neto is a defensive-minded winger. Madueke has shown it as well. Osimhen's brilliant, and Jackson. They're both brilliant pressers from the front. KDH, when he's fully fit, is a hard-working midfielder. Both Lavia and Casado are big out of possession weapons. The rest of the defense too. Ugachukwu as well. I think if he stay, I hope he stays around for that reason because I think he just adds something different. I think we've got enough defensively over the entire squad, and I think we have a lot of hard workers, which is key. Diamonde would have been my shout, but I think it's too late in the window now. And I think at this point, I don't know. Todibo too. Todibo would have been. He's going to be brilliant for West Ham. Really is. Then we definitely look at centre back next summer. Yeah, I agree. Because then you can maybe shift to Badiashile or Disasi, see how well Tosin does, because you signed him on a free. Fofana's injury, if it really struggles, and again, I wouldn't, because I think I think if Fofana can get to the level that I expect of him, that I personally think he's at and like has in his locker, then I think he's the starting right centre back for us for the foreseeable. But yeah, imagine we get Diamande links. Oh, I wish. One of my favourite centre backs in the world. Also for attack midfield, Pies and Esteval coming in 2025. Exactly. So we won't need to move with the attacking areas next summer. Like we've moved for Neto. If we get Felix and Osimhen, next summer it becomes these areas of the pitch. Again, not really right back. It's got Achimpong and these two. Becomes these areas. And because in midfield we're so stacked as well. We got Santos, Cassidy still on the books. Like I say, Ugachukwu, everybody on this sheet, everybody on this like screen that we've got. It's crazy. It is crazy. And then, like you say, Anselmino too. Penders, which is another one. Like, crazy. Maybe eventually we'd have to spend on any of them. Maybe Anselmino becomes one of the starting centre-backs. You never know. Very unlikely, but you never know. Have we got any more news to go over? If not, I might end the stream there in a sec. We've been going for an hour. We're doing quite well. Got 600 plus on Twitter right now, so do drop a follow on Twitter if you haven't already. And also, come over to the YouTube, quickly drop a like. Let me refresh and see how many likes we're on. 69 likes we're on. Can we get that to 75 at least? 6 more. We'll answer a few more questions for a few more minutes. Approaching 700 viewers now, so please do come over and drop a like on the YouTube. It does really help me out. And follow me on Twitter if you haven't. Would you take Garnacho if it became available? Yeah. No, it's tough actually. I think he's a top talent, yeah. But after signing Neto, probably not. Which is, yeah, I don't know. That's tough because Garnacho is so good. I do really rate Garnacho. I really rate Amad Diallo as well. But yeah, Garnacho's not going to come available, so no point really. No more news yet. Tonight will be huge though. Yeah, I do. I have that feeling. It's gone too quiet, isn't it? Like something has to drop soon. I just feel like eventually we're going to get like the at least the Felix news. I'd love some Osimhen news, but it's just not going to happen. It's going to be Felix stuff now. Felix Gallagher, those sort of things. Hopefully we get some tonight. Hopefully. And hopefully not as late as it was last night. Hopefully we get it soon. My guess we offload Castell this window, part of the Osimhen Lukaku deal, possibly. Or we just sell him, or we just loan him. Was it Fiorentina that was interested at one point with a loan? Who were guaranteed starters. What, like, even then it's just so hard. Palmer. Palmer, because everybody else, the midfield, like I could easily say one of Lavia, Caicedo, Enzo, but then I think only two of the three are going to play at once. In which case, that means none of them are undroppable because Lavia could play with Caicedo, Lavia could play with Enzo, Caicedo could play with Enzo. So one of them doesn't play. So I could say that one of them is, but I like it would be a lie because I think all three of them work well, like in different pairings. And Kunku, again, I think if he's fully fit, he's probably up there. Let's see how Neto settles. Osimhen, if he joins and he's fit, then again, I don't think it'll be like every single game must, but I think he'll be pretty much like nailed on. Orny bomber loading, let's hope so. Kukurea maybe, yeah. Or Colwell probably for me. So I think Colwell, I think this is just his year to just like give him full faith and let him sort of take the reins in that back line. So Colwell for me would be the one in defence. And then obviously if Reece is injured, like it's one of the like right now Reece is injured, so Gusto's nailed on. So in that sense, depends. If when Reece is back, then you have a bit of an issue. Like then you don't know which is starting. You don't know if Gusto goes to left back. You don't know if they rest Reece. You don't know. But yeah, guaranteed starters. People were offering 40 plus for Castell at one point. I don't think they were, not 40 plus. So it was about 20. Now, if he gets going, yeah, exactly. It depends how he sort of settles, but could easily be like the first choice winger quite quickly if he stays fit and he gets going quickly within the system. Very correct. We're up to 70 likes now. Huh? Can we get a last few before we head off stream? Go for an hour and we've got 700 plus in there now. 700 plus in here now. Any last questions before we end the stream? Like I say, tomorrow we're going to have a mine's gone blank. It's too hot for this. Tomorrow we're going to have the video analysing the Inter Milan game. That should be good, like I said. And then a thread will come out either tonight or tomorrow as well with it. Discussing, again, in possession, the diamond, out of possession, the goal that we conceded and why I think KDH was probably most at fault. But I'll describe that in there too. And then, yeah, Wednesday, I think I've got a stream planned to speak about the Man City game and preview that. Then Thursday, I think I have a video ready to preview the league or something like that. And then Friday, I think we're going to do a stream over here again where we predict the Premier League table and things like that. So it won't just be Chelsea, it'll be everybody on that occasion. We'll be talking about the whole Prem, we'll talk about all the teams, we'll talk about why I think certain teams are favourite for what position, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that one will be really good and interactive. It'd be good if everybody comes in for that one on Friday because then we can sort of get a grasp as to what everybody else thinks, and then we can always come back to the video at the end of the season to see how well we did. So that'd be quite a good idea. So if you want to get your Premier League predictions going, put them in like a notes page on your phone or like type them out and like save them on a Word document or anything. Get them ready, and then on Friday when I ask for them, they're ready to go, and you can change them all the way up till Friday, and then we'll have a look and we'll have a little maybe have a little competition to see who does best with the predictions and things. People are like, we didn't have three midfielders in two positions when we won the Champions League. We can take Cover and Jorginho. Exactly. You got, and that's sort of how I see Lavia, Caicedo, Enzo, right? Because none of them particularly attacking. All three can play together. If like if you're playing like a big fixture, like we have seen it. If you want to really protect the ball and you really want to like properly dominate that midfield, you can go all three, but you're probably going to go with two most of the time. So yeah, you're completely right there. It's a good good way to point it out. Feel like every spot is up for grabs bar three. Yeah, I agree. I think it's very open. There's obviously favourites over certain ones, like for example, Kukurea. Like Kukurea, I wouldn't say he's like nailed on, but he's quite clearly the favourite at left back. So that sort of thing. When fit and available, I know Palmer and Reece are the only 100% starters, and maybe Osimhen if he joins. Yeah, you're not wrong. And again, Reece is tough because as much as he is when he's fit, like you just have to start him because one, he's the captain, two, he's just that good when he's fit. Probably one of the best right backs, if not the best right back in the world when he's fit. Gusto is just that good. To the point where you could rest James if you needed it, and you wouldn't be that detrimental. It would allow you to do that. Is that a fab tweet? Did I just see a fab tweet? Don't think anything's happened. Don't think anything has happened. We're on 715 people in the stream. Crazy. It's doing much better when I stream them over to both Twitter and YouTube. It's doing quite well. Considering everything, Gusto's the best signing we've made under this ownership. I think Palmer obviously just edges it. But I understand what you're saying because Gusto, because of Reece, like the Reece factor gives him sort of that tiny edge. I know what you're trying to say, but Palmer has just been that good. I think it's Palmer, closely followed by Gusto, and I think there's a massive gap. And then you can make a case for that third one, like value for money. You could say Jackson. Like I said, I still think like Enzo, Casado, and Lavia. I still think all of them will prove to be brilliant signings, but you can't put them in that discussion just because of the price and like worth as of now. Palmer, then Gusto, then Enzo. Again, like I love Enzo. I'd love to put him in that conversation, but I think for 100 million, you just can't yet. I still think long term he'll end up being more than worth the money. But I think right now, because you're talking value, I think you put somebody like Jackson in there. In like third. Right. I think we're going to end the stream there. Like I say, please do put notifications on if you haven't already so that you can get the video tomorrow. That will be out maybe around midday tomorrow. Check that out, drop a like, share with your friends, all that good stuff. Again, come over to Twitter. I'll be talking and doing some bits for tonight. And again, if any of you guys go on Alex Goldberg's stream later, I should be on there at some point or another talking about all things Chelsea. I have no idea what will be the topics of discussion. But yeah, we'll be able to speak to a few more of you guys over there at some point, I'm sure. But apart from that, thanks everybody for joining. The support again has been crazy. These streams have been popping off the last few times. And as I always say, the support is actually more, it helps more than you guys realise because it just allows me to do these. And again, more and more I can prepare for them throughout the day. The more support we get, just I'm going to be getting better equipment soon to make these streams better for you guys. So all the support, very much appreciated. This guy thinks Palmer goes for Jackson. I'd probably agree. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for the support. Drop a like. Check out the video tomorrow. See you guys.